I finished the book Women and Girls with Autism Spectrum Disorder by Sarah Hendricks. This is going to be passages that stood out to me from the last 3 chapters. This first chapter is on employment. It is widely believed that individuals with ASD have difficulties in both obtaining and retaining employment for a number of reasons, most of which relate to their autism. Success in employment involves immersion into a neurotypical world for most of your waking hours. This can be a social step too far for some women with autism, and they may end up working in jobs below their ability and/or unable to work full-time, therefore reducing their income. Being smart is not enough. For the record, I am a lucky duck who has been self-employed since I was 18. I briefly worked, very, very briefly, worked at Burger King, and it was kind of a disaster. And so I have really clung to self-employment for my sanity. So some of these aren't things I really have experience with per se, but that I think I would have experience with if I had to have traditional employment. This is somebody's anecdote. I often felt as though almost every member of staff was giving me instruction, and often one would be telling me to do the opposite of the other. I was slower than other members of staff to understanding things, and therefore more at the mercy of every person in a workplace who dreamed of being a boss. Another anecdote. I am new to office life, and I feel with most things it starts off well enough, but then you are expected to master everything. I am still getting lost in the building and asking questions about things others expect me to be clear on. Considering the difficulties of employment for women with autism, I was interested in knowing how these women felt they would perform best. Self-employment, part-time, homeworking, and working alone featured most frequently in the responses of the women questioned. There was no mention of earning large incomes or achieving a high-status career position by anyone. It appears that spending your days doing something that does not exceed your limitations is always the priority for these women. Next chapter was on aging and autism. It basically says, we don't really know much about aging with autism because it is such a new diagnosis. New passage. 2013 study showed that 71% of individuals who were diagnosed with autism who were now over the age of 55 had received their diagnosis in the past decade. So that would be at 45 or older. New passage. I would have liked to have been able to speak to more women in their 60s and above, but sadly, few came forward to volunteer despite my best efforts. It is probably the case that women in this group are even less likely to be aware that they have autism than younger women. Perhaps they are also less likely to take on board this information even if it were presented to them, coming from a generation where such things didn't really exist, especially for intellectually able people and for women. The last chapter was titled Final Words. These women need opportunities to speak to each other and to find their own tribe, their own community. This is a place where they can share their trials and tribulations and not get the response, "You did what?" but instead hear, "Yeah, I do that too." This can make all the difference between self-esteem and self-hatred. To education professionals, support workers, and families, it may be more than just teenage girl stuff, a neurotic, or shyness. It may be something else. Just because she's quiet and isn't causing you any trouble, don't overlook her. She's not like other girls. Don't judge her unfavorably against yourself as a woman or against other girls and women. She thinks differently. Keep an open mind. That's it. I would love more recommendations for books on autism.